This is video number 13 for my course outcome series. This is on demonstrating critical understanding of limits and ambiguity of knowledge. This is sort of an interesting topic. I don't have any sort of actual artifact that I could really share here, aside from just sort of some recent conversations that I've had with people. And I think a lot of it comes down to giving feedback. I think when we're honest with each other, when it's clear that somebody doesn't quite have the knowledge or understanding on a subject that we do know about, it's important to be brave and share that. I know it is an uncomfortable thing to give feedback to somebody, and it's uncomfortable to receive feedback, but I think that is how we can kind of counter the dangers of information asymmetry. There are a lot of ways that is something that can be exploited in people if they don't quite understand how something actually works. Then it's important to counter that and do your best to make them understand it, so that you can lessen that asymmetry and hopefully take them out of harm's way if for lack of knowledge. So I'll share one story that happened to me recently. I was gathering information about Power BI, and I was sharing with somebody sort of some thoughts that I had on how the role of IT could be to provide data to people that needed it, and it was up to them to sort of do what they wanted with that data. And I didn't think there was much to that really, but I think I ruffled some feathers with the guy that I mentioned to, because his response was very blunt, and he told me that I was very ignorant on the subject of data. And I thought that came out of nowhere, but he clearly, it was something that he felt very strongly about. So I gave it a few days, and I went back to him and sort of wanted to follow up, and just to make sure that I don't want to be ignorant on the subject of data. I want to understand where that came from him, because clearly he's somebody that I admire, and that he knows his stuff. So he sat down and explained just the concept of the self-service aspect to it, how there needs to be sort of a self-service aspect, but a lot of that is still designed by IT to bring that to the people. And I guess he was sort of a little, he kind of jumped the gun a bit, and I was able to explain a little more about where I was coming from, that I did not quite understand that he had already put a lot of work into that. And I think I had maybe offended him a little bit, but I am glad that he was able to kind of share his knowledge with me on a subject that was sort of ambiguous to me, that I was sort of assuming something that was not true, and he was able to kind of very bluntly and boldly tell me that I was ignorant on the subject. And I think that's an opportunity right there to not be ignorant on the subject. So yeah, I went to him, but I think it's something that happens. It's something that happens because of the limits that where I come from. I'm just not exposed to that sort of information the way that he was. So I come from accounting, so my understanding is like data just gets given to me, and I never really thought too much about all the work that went into it. But now that I am on the other side, I have a much larger respect for it. But I think if you're not exposed to some subjects, your understanding of it can be very limited, and you can develop sort of a lot of assumptions, and those assumptions are a lot of the times wrong, and you have to be very careful that you don't you're open to having your mind changed when you find out that something you believe was wrong. And that is it's a very important part of critical thinking, is to accept when new information is given to you, that you add it to your assumption, and to get closer to what is your understanding of what the truth of something is. I was also able recently to have a conversation with a lot of people from IT on the subject of inflation and the dangers of hyperinflation. They were not really well aware of what that is, but I learned a lot about this through macroeconomics, as well as finance management, several courses that I've taken through SAIT. And I was able to kind of explain to them how the concept of inflation is extremely scary. It's something we should all be aware of. It's why we don't just print money. That's why we do not just throw money at a problem. Money is only as good as the things you can get for it. So inflation is extremely dangerous, and they should all take it very seriously. And to hear some of the arguments from them coming from the place of like, why don't we just print money and give it to people that don't have money? I'm glad I was able to kind of take them aside and just say, this is why. These are the reasons why we don't, because inflation and it just the value of money is important. The role of the central bank in the money supply, it's not something that they had any sort of idea about, and nor would I think that they ever would assume that they ever should have any sort of idea about it. But when they make assumptions about it, it kind of becomes an opportunity for somebody that does know this kind of thing, step in, be brave, and just say, this is actually how it works. Let me just kind of explain it to you and be friendly about it, right? So I hope that they were able to, lower their, just get rid of some of their assumptions and reduce the information asymmetry that might exist out there about, how it's okay to just print money and an economy will be okay. So I think on the subject of, limitations, ambiguity of knowledge, we all have a role to play to actually share the knowledge we have, to reduce the information asymmetry out there, and help each other to eliminate assumptions and get to a truth we can all agree on, and all live happily ever after.